I should have never gone hiking alone. But the thing about regret is, it comes too late. I had been planning the trip for months, a week-long solo trek through the Whispering Woods, a vast, nearly untouched expanse of wilderness deep in the Pacific Northwest. The name alone was enough to spark my curiosity, though I dismissed the local legends as nothing more than folklore. Stories of voices carried through the wind, of figures lurking in the trees, of hikers who entered but never returned. Nonsense, I told myself. Superstition. I wasn't the type to believe in ghost stories. My name is Daniel Carter. I packed well. A tent, enough food and water, a map, a compass, my phone, though service would be non-existent, and my trusty knife, more for peace of mind than necessity. I set out early, the morning air crisp, the sun slicing through the towering trees in golden beams. The first day was perfect. The scenery was breathtaking, and the silence of the forest was peaceful rather than unnerving. I made good progress, hiking nearly 10 miles before setting up camp near a small creek. That was the first time I heard the whispering. At first, I thought it was the wind, a soft, almost melodic murmur drifting through the trees. But when I listened closer, it wasn't random. The sound had rhythm, cadence, like voices speaking just out of reach. I told myself it was my imagination, the remnants of a tired mind after a long hike. But even as I forced myself to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, watching, waiting. The second day was worse. The deeper I ventured into the forest, the more unsettling it became. The trees grew denser, the canopy so thick that only fractured light seeped through. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was suffocating, unnatural. The whispering never truly stopped, growing louder in places, retreating in others, but never gone. That night I awoke to the sound of footsteps. They were soft but deliberate, circling my tent. My heart hammered in my chest as I reached for my knife. I held my breath, straining to listen. Then just as suddenly as they had come, they stopped. Morning brought no answers, only dread. I found no tracks, no signs of an intruder. Just the whispering, growing closer, creeping into my skull like a parasite burrowing deep. By the fourth day, I knew I had made a mistake. I turned back, abandoning my planned route, but the forest didn't want me to leave. The trails twisted, familiar landmarks disappeared, and my compass spun uselessly. I walked in circles, exhaustion clawing at my bones. The whispers grew urgent, hissing my name, beckoning me deeper. Shadows moved between the trees, quick and silent, too fast to be human. That night, I saw it. A figure stood at the edge of my camp, just beyond the reach of the fire's glow. Tall, thin, its limbs impossibly long, its head tilted unnaturally as if studying me. I was frozen, paralyzed with terror. Then it stepped closer. I ran. I didn't stop. Not when my lungs burned, not when branches tore at my skin. I ran until I collapsed, my body unwilling to continue. The whispering surrounded me now, a chorus of voices speaking in a language I didn't understand. And then among them, a familiar sound, my own voice, calling my name. The last thing I remember is falling. A steep drop, the sensation of weightlessness before darkness swallowed me whole. I woke up outside the woods, no memory of how I got there, no explanation for the week I had lost. But the whispering never left. Even now in the safety of my home, I hear it, soft, insistent. A reminder that the forest is waiting, calling me back. I never thought a simple weekend hike would be the worst mistake of my life. But when 4 of my best friends and I set out for a trip into the dense wilderness of Blackwood Forest, we had no idea what was waiting for us in the deep, forgotten places of the world. It was supposed to be a fun, adventurous getaway. Just 5 of us. Me, Ethan, my best friend Ryan, his girlfriend Lily, our friend Jake, and the always joking, always loud Eric. We had all been hiking before, but Blackwood was new to us. It had a reputation, sure. Stories of people getting lost, strange noises at night, even some missing persons cases. But that was half the thrill, wasn't it? The first few hours were great. The trees were tall and ancient. their thick canopies filtering the sunlight into a constant dim glow. The deeper we went, the quieter the forest became. There were no birds, no rustling in the underbrush, just the crunch of our boots and our own voices. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, we set up camp in a clearing near a small creek. We made a fire, roasted some food, and sat around telling ghost stories, laughing at Eric's ridiculous impressions of horror movie villains. It wasn't until midnight that things started feeling off. The wind picked up, howling through the trees like a whispering voice. The fire flickered strangely, as if an unseen force was breathing on it. And then, in the distance, we heard it, a sound like something large moving through the trees. Not an animal, not the wind, something else. We laughed it off at first, but I could see it in everyone's eyes. They heard it too, and they were scared. We packed up early, wanting to push deeper into the woods. The deeper we went, the more the landscape changed. The trees seemed older, their bark blackened and twisted. The ground was uneven, full of roots like grasping fingers. And worst of all, we started noticing strange carvings on the trees. Symbols none of us recognized, scratched deep into the wood like warnings. "What the hell do you think they mean?" Jake asked, running his fingers over one of the symbols. It looked almost like an eye with jagged lines around it. "Trail markers?" Lily offered, but her voice lacked conviction. Ryan took a picture of it. Probably just some old cultural stuff, maybe from the native tribes that used to live here. Eric, trying to lighten the mood, laughed. "Or maybe it's a warning. Turn back before it's too late." He wiggled his fingers at us dramatically. Nobody laughed. That night, things got worse. We set up camp again, but the moment the sun vanished, the forest changed. The sounds started up again, heavy footsteps, breathing that wasn't ours. And then the whispers, faint at first, like wind slipping through the trees. But soon they grew distinct, a voice calling our names. Ethan, Ryan, Lily. I froze. I thought I was imagining it, but when I looked at the others, their faces were pale, their eyes wide with terror. "Who the fuck is doing that?" Eric demanded, his bravado slipping. Nobody answered. Then Jake screamed. We turned to see him pointing into the trees, and there, standing just beyond the fire's glow, was a figure. Tall, gaunt, motionless, no face, no eyes, just watching. And then it was gone. We barely slept. When dawn finally came, we decided to head back. But no matter which way we walked, nothing looked familiar. The trees seemed to shift around us, leading us in circles. The symbols on the bark were everywhere now, staring at us like countless eyes. Then we found something we weren't prepared for. A campsite, old, abandoned, torn tents, shredded sleeping bags, and worse, a journal half buried in the dirt. Ryan picked it up, flipping through its pages. The handwriting was frantic, the words scrawled in terror. "They watch, they whisper, they won't let us leave. It's in the trees, it moves when you don't look. One by one, they take us one by one." Ryan dropped the journal. "We need to move, now." Then Jake was gone. One second he was there, the next he wasn't. No sound, no struggle, just gone. We screamed his name. We searched everywhere, but there was nothing. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just the forest silent and watching. Night was coming. We had no choice but to keep moving. By the time we saw the cabin, we were barely holding it together. It stood in a clearing, old and rotting, but it was shelter. A single symbol was carved into the door, a massive eye staring right at us. Inside, it was worse. The walls were covered in writing, scratched deep into the wood. "It sees. It hunts. Don't look away." Then the whispers started again, louder, closer. The floorboards creaked as if something was moving inside with us. Eric was the next to go. He screamed and then silence. We turned, and where he had been standing, there was nothing, just the empty room. Lily sobbed. "We're all going to die here." "No," Ryan growled. "We keep moving." But deep down, we all knew. It was too late. Lily was taken in the night. We woke up and she was gone. No scream this time. No sound at all. Ryan and I ran. We didn't care about the path anymore. We just ran, and then we found it. A pit, a massive, gaping hole in the earth, lined with bones. And in the center of it, the thing that had been hunting us. It was tall, impossibly thin, its limbs too long, its face a void of shifting darkness, its fingers stretched toward us, and I felt something clawing at my mind, forcing its way inside. Ryan shoved me. "Run!" I turned, sprinting. I heard him scream. And then, nothing. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up on the edge of the forest, alone. The rangers found me, dehydrated, delirious. They never found my friends. They told me I must have gotten lost, that the others likely succumbed to the elements. But I know the truth. It's still out there, watching, waiting, and someday it will come for me too.
As the final echoes of the tale fade into the darkness, remember this: in the shadows where fear takes root, the true horror lies not in the creatures that lurk, but in the darkness within ourselves. We tell these stories not just to scare or entertain,